All right, welcome. Just before the playoffs started, I made a list and explained really four major concerns I had with the Bruins going into the postseason. We've seen game one. I want to talk about them. And I guess I have one word to kind of sum up the first game in terms of how my concerns were addressed. Impressive is impressive. Let's get into it. I had concerns with the defensive pairings for the Bruins going in. Again, we saw a lot of Grizzly McAvoy on that first line, Carlo Lindholm on that second line, and I don't know, Clifton and Forbert or whoever on that third line, or Orlov on that third line. And we've seen Orlov, and we've seen them kind of get jumbled around a little bit, but for the most part, it's Grizzly McAvoy and then Carlo and Lindholm. When everybody's in the lineup, that should be. That wasn't the case. Grizzly was a healthy scratch, and the analytical numbers, really any number besides plus minus, will tell you that that was the right choice. Grizzly is probably the seventh best defenseman on that team. Sixth, maybe. He kind of is right there with Forbert. Forbert's not great either, but Forbert is such a power or a penalty kill specialist that you kind of need to have him in the lineup. You can have him playing those third line minutes. If you need to rely on him a little more, it's better than relying on John Merrill in Minnesota, right? There's definitely worse options. And same with Grizzly. There's worse options than Grizzly, but in terms of what the Bruins have, you have to play McAvoy. You have to play Carlo. Carlo, excellent defensive defenseman. You have to play Lindholm, McAvoy, Lindholm, both, Norris candidates. They're probably not going to either of them be nominated for Norris, but nonetheless, both excellent two-way defensemen. Well, Orlov, unbelievable revelation offensively since coming to Boston, just scoring at an incredible rate. Not only that, but his defense is excellent comparatively speaking to where he was in Washington. His defense wasn't awful in Washington, but it definitely wasn't great, and he was sometimes a liability. Not so much in Boston. His defensive play is very impressive. Right. So you got guys to use. So I'm kind of excited that Grizzly was a scratch. It's Don Sweeney's boy, the Charlestown boy. But I think that was great. I think the way the lines were jumbled up throughout the game kind of worked to the advantage of the defense and played a part into helping the goaltending be so dominant. What is just an insane save percentage that Ullmark had. Power play, I thought was fine. I didn't think it was outstanding, but it was fine. Bergeron not playing on that bumper definitely takes a toll. Bergeron in that bumper position. I kind of call it the middle of the diamond, but it's a little more towards the bottom of the diamond, right? He's lethal from there. He's one of the best bumper. He's one of the best bumper guys, if not the best in all of hockey. Not the net front guy, but the bumper guy. It's a really difficult spot to be on the power play. They're missing him. It's obvious, but they've made some adjustments to the power play. We've seen players in that first game kind of get swapped in and out of that power play unit, and I thought that was great, and I think that worked. So I'm encouraged by the coaching adjustments, and they're all kind of related. And coaching adjustments I had related especially to the top three. Montgomery was changing lines. He was jumbling lines when he needed to, and it was working, and it was beneficial. That's not something we've seen from Jim Montgomery, I don't know, since November, since he's had to with the injuries with Marchand and McAvoy out. So I think it's been good. I hope Montgomery continues to make these adjustments. I hope the defensive pairings can stay consistently strong. Clifton has been great, right? There's been a lot of really strong. You're going to have to sit someone who is probably a top 4, maybe a top 6 defenseman on any other team. That's kind of the depth of the Bruins defensive pairings. Somebody's going to have to get sat. There's not enough spots. It just is what it is. I think they made the right call in sitting Grizzly. And maybe they keep resting guys. Maybe Forbert sits out the next game. I don't know. But yeah. For me, it's the coaching adjustments. At the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to. I think they've played a lot better with the coaching adjustments. Seeing Bertuzzi really hit his stride, you know, is huge. He's a great gritty guy, and I think he's starting to get more used to his role. But he's being moved up and down the lineup accordingly, and it's worked. What's it called? Montgomery moved DeBrusque off of the first line for, I don't know, it was like a couple shifts. It wasn't super long, but it got DeBrusque going. I think DeBrusque was on the third line. And Trent Frederick, who's having a really strong game, played on the first line. A little reward, I guess you could say, to Trent Frederick. And they obviously switched back to their respective lines, but I don't know. It worked, and both players played, I think, even better than they did to start the game after that adjustment. Last thing is goaltending. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. Like, it is what it is. I guess my biggest concern was going with a tandem. Do they go with a tandem? Yes. And I explained kind of the details. So if you're going to come at me for recommending the whole tandem thing, like, I highly encourage you to watch my video like 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? Does it even say 4 days ago? Where I kind of go into depth explaining why I think it should be, Ullmark and then Swayman and then Ullmark and Swayman. I don't think we're going to see that. I'd be surprised. Ullmark played well last night, and he's one of those players that probably needs to have more playoff experience under his belt. And I don't know. One of the best teams in hockey going up against the last 8th spot to make the playoffs, barely slipped into the playoffs. It's probably good for Ullmark's confidence to make a deep Stanley Cup run. That's great. I don't know. So I'm not super torn either way. I think it would be a little beneficial, but I think I felt like it was going to be a tighter series. Not even like, going 6 or 7 games. The games I felt like were going to be a lot tighter than it felt in game 1. And for that, maybe you go with the goaltending tandem. Maybe you switch up the looks. You kind of, if you're used to going high blocker side on Ullmark, because he's got an incredible glove, or I don't even know, was that 7-hole? Under the arm, like right in the armpit area, 7-hole, right? That's great, but that's not going to necessarily work on Swayman. And if you're working on your 7th-hole shots all day, or all day the practice before, and then all of a sudden Swayman starts, Swayman has no 7th-hole to shoot at. Like, you're not getting it past him there. Right? He has different weaknesses. I call them, weaknesses, but different. He has strengths in areas that aren't necessarily his strength, though probably above NHL average, but still, right? It changes up the look as a shooter. You have to readjust your shot, and that can take a second to process, and that's a second that you've now lost the puck in the offensive zone. Or you've shot at a place you don't have a high chance of scoring from. Like, you're shooting straight for the chest. You're like trying to think of where you should shoot on a new goaltender, and it just goes straight to the chest, or it goes straight to the blocker side, and Swayman makes a blocker save because it's second nature to him, right? I don't really know much about Swayman's weaknesses, but just kind of an example. So I think if the series was tighter, you really should explore going with the tandem between Swayman and Ullmark. It hasn't felt like a tight series so far. And by that, again, I mean tighter games, not necessarily a longer series. The Bruins could still sweep in 4 games and still win games 3-2 or 2-1 or 2-0. And to me, that would be more of a tighter game. But Ullmark has played fine. The defense in front of him has helped quite a bit. They're not getting a whole lot of high-danger scoring chances. So we'll see. This is interesting. I'm hoping for the sweep. Again, Bruins fan, let's go. But the next series between either Tampa or Toronto, it's going to be a lot tougher. Bruins need to find their stride, which it looks like they found last game. Really get back into playoff mode, win mode, because you didn't see that the last month and a half from the Bruins. They were winning games, but they didn't look 100%. You want them firing on all cylinders, firing at 100% to make the Stanley Cup push and win the Cup to reflect the great season they've had. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too concerned with Florida at the moment. I think the concerns I had are being shored up, and I was impressed with, I was just impressed after I finished watching the Bruins Florida Panthers game, how much my concerns kind of just disappeared and dissipated. Goaltending, obviously, probably the most minor concern. I don't know why this keeps falling, because I keep hitting it. Don't mind that. But again, as I said the last video I made, best regular season in NHL history. Obviously, whatever you want to say, it's a salary cap era. Most wins in a season, most points in a season. Yes, overtime wins count. Still had a ton of regulation wins. There isn't too much to harp on this team with, which is great from a Bruins fan's perspective, but there were still concerns in a historic season. You don't really want to see a whole lot of major concerns, and there were some major concerns going into playoffs. And I don't know. Now it's like, how do you beat the Bruins? Maybe I'll do a little video on that, because there are definitely ways to beat the Bruins, but that involves some old school hockey being played, and I don't think there are many teams capable of doing that. There are some. I think probably the biggest one that comes to mind is the Wild. You got to play gritty. You got get into the corners. You have to get into the crease. Maybe a healthy Wild team with Eriksson Ek and Mason Shaw. Got to get into the crease and got to get those dirty goals, and it's tough in Boston when you're playing the Bruins. It's tough to even get in that crease. But the Wild, very stingy team defensively, and the Bruins have struggled with defensively stingy teams throughout the season. Not necessarily lost those games. But again, my concern with the Wild is if you're playing stingy defense, you still need to be able to produce goals to beat the Bruins. 3 goals a game. You got to score at least 3 goals a game and play absolutely stingy defense. Because the Bruins can get some dirty goals too. They got guys like Tyler Bertuzzi. They got guys that'll go to the crease. Marchand and Bergeron, notorious crease guy. Not overly physical, but spends a lot of time in that crease. Foligno. The Bruins can play a physical, gritty net front game as well. So your team has to be very good defensively, but also be able to score goals. And that's where I think the Wild would fall short in this. So again, Tampa, one of those teams that could be capable of doing that. Obviously, it hurts a lot having Hedman out, maybe Chernak out. I don't even know. They had 3 guys go down last night. I think 2 of them were defensemen. That's rough. As a Bruins fan, it's you hate Tampa at this point, but you want to play Tampa when they're healthy in the playoffs. You want to be the better team. You want to be like, hey, we just broke your historic season, and we're going to beat you. No excuses, right? We don't want to, you beat us because we were injured. We had our top 4 defensemen out. None of that, no excuses. We want to beat the best to get to the Cup. And I think that starts with Tampa. And I think it'd be a very good battle should Tampa get healthy for that series, and should they beat Toronto. And we'll see. Still early. Only 1 game passed. Game 2 in, I don't know, less than an hour. So let's go. But I just want to do a follow-up on my concerns, especially if you're watching that video after Game 1. There's not so many concerns anymore. So I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think. If you have other concerns, obviously, there could be things I'm missing. If you have anything else to add, I appreciate you. If you watch the Bruins, if you're a Tampa fan, or not a Tampa fan, a Florida Panthers fan, let me know. I have a lot of respect for fans of teams that aren't overly popular in their area, such as Florida Panthers, who put together a competitive team, but just can't get it done in the playoffs. Really don't have. I don't want to say not a strong fan base, because the fans that show up are pretty intense, and all respect to that. But they're not selling out, right? Florida puts together a President's Trophy team last year. They still couldn't sell out games. right? People that go to, say, Columbus Blue Jackets games, or I just connected with somebody who's a Blue Jackets season ticket holder and did the whole paint on the ice thing, and like those are true good hockey fans. And it's just, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for those people, especially that hang with a team through the dark times. And I'm not talking about you, Toronto, because you've had a great team for several years. You make the playoffs every year. Dubas, I don't think, is all that bad of a general manager, but they do need to shake things up, and I do question his ability to move one of the big four, because it's clear that one needs to be moved. But I don't think he's capable of doing that. So that's side rant. A little side rant to this, but whatever. So yeah, if you're a fan of like Florida, or I don't know, just one of those teams, right? I don't even know. I don't even want to put Nashville in that. Nashville makes the playoffs. The Ducks. Like, I hate the Ducks, but like you got to respect their fans, man. The Coyotes are going to be good in a few years. Watch out. Everyone's going to be so upset when that happens. Again, the Blue Jackets, like, I want the Blue Jackets to do well. Like, I just do. I kind of want them to do well. Canucks, I feel for you guys. I don't want to. Again, Bruins fan, 2011 happened. Like, I don't know. But, like, I also feel for, like, I just feel for the fan bases that, I don't know, need to at least make the playoffs every once in a while. Some of these teams just don't. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hockey time. You're gonna make food. Watch the Bruins game. Watch the Wild game. I don't even know. I don't even know who I watched last night. Maybe the Oilers and Kings play tonight. Who else plays? Oh, why am I blanking on this? It's not. Oh, is it Vegas? No, Vegas played last night. Oh, did they? No, I think it's Vegas. I don't know. Anyway, gonna go watch hockey. It's gonna start with the Bruins. Probably gonna watch the Wild after, because that series is super physical, super intriguing. Let's go. I'm gonna switch between channels. I'm gonna have multiple feeds going. I'm gonna have all the games on. But I'm Bruins fan. Gonna watch Wild's Dallas Stars series. Let's see. Let's go. All right. This is turning into unnecessarily long. All right. Take care.